Now, I don't bring you content or news that I don't think you can handle. And we've been having this discussion for some time. I've been sharing my opinion for several years now, and I've noted that Portland is one of these cities. So, we're going to take a look at this report from Realtor.com. But before we begin, we are looking at these conversations normalized. It was considered fear mongering several years ago. Now, this is commonplace, which is also chilling. So, I'm going to go ahead and start reading. You can follow the link down below to read for yourself. But beginning with the article, we live in uneasy and downright queasy times. What's causing Americans to hit the panic button? Is it A, devastating hurricanes, B, demoralizing tweet storms? Is it C, cyber attacks? Is it D, gun attacks? Is it E, North Korea, Iran, Russia, etc.? Is it F, zombies? Or G, everything? And I will add, sometimes it is the last option, which is everything. You didn't really need us to tell you the answer is G, did you? Apocalypse, wow. Even the most positive minded among us, it sometimes seems the world is on the verge of collapse. So, just in case civilization does indeed crumble, explode, or implode around you, it makes sense to have a plan. So, where would you go to survive? The location you call home. And for a moment here, we will bring this. The location you call home can mean the difference between life and death in the face of utter disaster, but the safest place depends on what kind of disaster we're talking about. That's where the Realtor.com data team comes in. Okay, so yes, we're going to be looking at the information, the data from Realtor.com. The Realtor.com team. The mainstream view of the apocalypse, the best and worst places. Again, I'm not sure where the best comes in. This is all just continuing. We donned our biohazard gear, pulled together a gross of canned goods and filtered water, and set our sights on the best and worst. Metros to survive two wildly different end of days scenarios: a nuke calamity, more terrifying every day, thank you, Kim Jong un, and a zombie apocalypse. Hey, it can happen. Don't ask us which is worse. There are home features like panic rooms that can increase your chance of remaining among the living during a attack of the Walking Dead or any fast spreading, deadly contagion. But if your panic room is located in the middle of a big city, then your odds go down. Large urban centers are like all you can eat buffets for zombies. All those delicious brains. Meanwhile, a bunker or a fallout shelter could save your skin during a nuclear attack unless it's near a military base, making it a top target. So, there is a lot of fear mongering that's out there regarding how would you prepare, right? Or maybe different opinions. I think it's good to have that information. But there's definitely a lot of disinformation and stuff that's just there to generate clicks. But this particular statement about not being near a military base is pretty key. It's something that I've been saying for years. It's something that I said about the strategic threat posed by some of the areas in Colorado. Obviously, I'm talking about the Springs and Denver, Colorado. Whereas other areas, the fallout may be an issue. And even if Yellowstone erupts, um, but you know what? I throw my hands up with regards to surviving something beyond that. Actually, it's like, you know what? It is what it is. Nowhere is perfect. I think that there are some good areas in Oregon. I think there are some good areas in various places. What I think about immediately, though, number one, above all else, is it near a immediate military base? I mean, it seems that there's military bases everywhere, right? But I'm talking about where there's some major operations going on. I would say, in particular, anything dealing with aircraft or things that are flying. Obviously those could be targets, airports. So going back to the article from Realtor.com, Richard Duarte, who's a Miami-based personal injury attorney and author of Surviving Doomsday, says, quote, surviving a disaster will often have more to do with where you are than with any other factor. Finding yourself in a highly populated urban center competing with violent crowds for dwindling resources usually does not end well. If the scarcity doesn't get you, the resulting chaos certainly will. On the other hand, being in a low density rural environment with more abundant natural resources and far fewer mouths to feed will dramatically increase your chances of surviving the crisis. These are very good points. Think about where those areas are in your state. So we looked at a variety of criteria that can mean the difference between life, death, and the fate of the walking undead. We looked at the 200 largest U.S. metros and only included one per state. Our criteria included. These are the things that were important to the people that were involved for drinking water, percentage of listings with a safe room or panic room, percentage listings with a bunker fallout shelter or underground shelter, and a number of other things listed as well. Percentage of listings with solar panels or hydro power to fuel your home if the grid goes dark, population density, percentage of active military and federal government employees, nuke targets, percentage of healthcare workers, percentage of manufacturing workers, more nuke targets, state gun score, tracking the ability to stockpile weapons, percentage of landmass covered by fresh water. Take a look at one of the most frightening scenarios first. You'll thank us one day. Actually, we hope you won't. Best cities to survive a nuke apocalypse. Oh, I got to bring the map on. All right, so we have a number of things that are listed. You may agree, you may disagree. Let us know in the comment section. They have potentially completely avoided discussing certain areas. Is there a reason they put this nuke emblem over here in the western states also overlapping? Well, geez, if that was dead center, I would definitely be within the wave. Being within the whole state of Colorado would. I don't think that was deliberate. There's certain areas I think that could be safe, but it really depends on where the attack is and where the blast goes. You have a jet stream going this way. I wonder how much of the pollution from the Pacific is already reaching me where I am. We have a couple of places here. So Manchester, New Hampshire, New Haven, Connecticut. I don't know how they came up with these. Springfield, is that Massachusetts? More than likely. Hagerstown, Maryland, Crestview, Florida, Kansas City, Missouri. I visited there once. Ann Arbor, Michigan. Duluth, Minnesota. I haven't even heard of these places. Lincoln, Nebraska. Really? They might already have some government stuff going on there. Yeah, this is an interesting perspective. San Luis, California. America's top cities are not terrific places to be during a nuclear attack. Many of them are likely to be on the first strike target list, especially hubs for government finance or corporate infrastructure, or cities that just may be internationally famous for symbolic value. Military bases are also a big bullseye, but hold on. The federal government also considers things like airfields, ports, refineries, and energy centers to be targets. Robert Vecino, CEO of Vivo's group, which sells bunkers, says there is no safe place. There are only safer places. No, I'd agree with that too, even if it is a slogan used to sell bunkers. There are safer places. Nothing is ultimately safe. You may want to head to Kansas City, Missouri. The article continues. The metro has one of the highest rates of housing listings with bunkers or fallout shelters. It also has more than its fair share of homes with basements, as well as those made out of brick, a structure that is better prepared for a blast. The metro has become something of a prepper mecca. In 2013, Vivos announced plans to build a huge bunker capable of housing around 5,000 people. Structural issues caused the group to abandon the project a year later, but there's still no shortage of large underground shelters. On the downside, Fort Leavenworth, an army base and more than 5,000 acres, is about 35 miles to the northwest. So stick to the southeast side of the city. When I visited, it was during the polar vortex, took Greyhound to visit some viewers. That was late 2013, and I was going back to the port for the last time by April 2014. You can also check out my own video I did on a guy's bunker. Richard from survivalcenter.com sells bunkers, and you can find that video on this channel. If you survive the initial blast, you'll face a long road ahead. The movie, the book, The Road. I actually have the movie, The Road. Kind of, kind of depressing. What do you think was going on in the movie The Road? Was it ever disclosed? Was it a volcanic eruption? I wonder. But yeah, during a situation, human trafficking would be an issue for those of you that just still, whether you're new to this content or haven't considered it. I wonder why they don't get into some of these things. Anyway, they talk about certain areas because of water. I'm not in a great situation for water, by the way. There's not a lot of water where I am off the grid. It is something that people haul in. That is my own issue. We trade off. If we may feel that certain areas may be safer than others, or maybe they're just safe for us for a few years and then we have to relocate. Who knows what kind of destiny awaits us? What kind of adventures on the road? As they say, may God be with us. One of the most basic needs is drinking water. So living in a city like Duluth is a big plus, given the high number of properties with lakes, ponds, and wells. You'll also need some form of power. They have a higher than average number of homes with solar panels listed on Realtor.com, and a city like Massachusetts, Manchester has plenty of healthcare professionals to treat any festering injuries, and there are likely to be plenty. If you're worried about a nuclear event, what type of home should you seek out? Teresa Mondul, broker and owner of United Country Western Montana Group in Missoula, Montana, says, quote, some preppers are all about water sources. Others, and I guess it would be like myself, want to get deep into the mountains, although I'd say I'm not deep enough. But there are health risks with going above certain elevations as we go into a solar minimum and our planet experience more cosmic rays, which are linked to higher rates of cancer, especially those whose genetics, and I would say European in origin, are more susceptible to some types of skin cancers. Some people would want to be aware of particular cancer rates in particular communities. So, word to wise to those with fair skin, if you will, at higher elevations, that there are reports of increased cancer rates. Doesn't mean that that's something to totally hold you back. It means that we need to up. That's right. We need to up the self care and the healthy foods and the antioxidants and reducing things like sugar and other things in our diet that feed cancer cells. And I'm off topic, but I do have another video with my friend in town that was diagnosed with cancer twice, and she beat cancer by changing her diet. So that's something that we're going to be needing to consider, more of us, as time goes on, as elements of our environment appear more toxic, if you will. So this article recommends other places. And again, I don't endorse this. I'm sharing what other people are putting out. You let me know what you think. After Kansas City, the best places to survive a nuke blast. New Haven, Connecticut, in second place, followed by Ann Arbor, Michigan, Hagerstown, Maryland, Springfield, Massachusetts, Manchester, that would be New Hampshire, Duluth, Minnesota, San Luis, that would be difficult to enunciate the rest, California, Crestview, Florida, Lincoln, Nebraska. Okay, what are the places to avoid? Like to run to the hills. Ow, 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 ow. Let's take a scary look. Portland did make the list. I kid you not. We'll get there. There's part one and part two. Uh, to the part of the bad cities. The second part of the is the zombie part. First part is the nuke part. People around the world hungry for a taste of the Big Apple. Um, People around the world hunger for a taste of the Big Apple. But if a nuke drops while you visit, it could be your last taste. New York leads the list of the worst places in the United States to ride out an attack. Like most of America's largest cities, New York City would be hit with a deadly whammy, deadly double whammy. In addition to being a primary target, it has precious few natural resources to make post blast survival possible, unless you enjoy eating grilled subway rats. Big cities usually have most of their goods, food, bottled water, medical supplies shipped in. Once that stopped, panic would quickly set in. Even getting out of most urban areas, which rely on public transportation and are known for clogged roadways, could be near impossible. That's especially true for Miami, our fifth worst ranked metro, as thousands of people learned while fleeing Hurricane Irma in September of this year, 2017. Quote, there are few ways to get out of here during a mass evacuation. The only way to go to is north, Duroff says. Surprisingly, there are only three major highways out of South Florida. Under normal circumstances, these arteries are already congested. And as I said in a video about a month ago or two, people should be learning about the mass exodus, whether it was a drill, whatever caused it. People should be learning about whether or not they're prepared. People should know by now, I mean, from experience. Um, that would be interesting to go maybe on YouTube and listen to some personal accounts, the news aside, but people that were literally evacuating and maybe even people that filmed it with their cameras and to hear their stories. But for the most part, this was not the biggest catastrophe to hit the United States. It was far less than expected. Puerto Rico seems to have gotten the worst of it, but people need to be using these threats and disasters as learning experiences. After New York, our data crunching ranked LA as the second worst nuclear haven, Dallas the third, Nashville, Tennessee the fourth. And I'm not sure why they've ranked Nashville, Tennessee. There's certainly going a lot going on in Tennessee, that's for sure, especially lately, as well as Virginia. Rounding out the list are Atlanta, ranked sixth, followed by Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and is it Fayetteville, North Carolina? Not familiar with that place. And of course, Seattle, just north of Portland, or you can just simply add Portland to the list, depending on whether it is Seattle and or Portland targeted. If you call one of these urban centers home, here's something to cheer you up. About everyone would be screwed during such a strike. I don't see why that's something to celebrate. So there's that. So there's a little bit of comedy in here, tongue in cheek, but sometimes that leaves an odd taste in the mouth. Not really a funny subject, but sometimes it is the only way that people are able to handle something so traumatic. So, I understand. So let's lighten the mood a bit and turn to zombies. We all love zombies, right? Best cities to survive the zombie Armageddon. So here we go back to surviving the zombie apocalypse. We really need to get into all these cities, but here you go. Back to San Luis, California, Prescott, Arizona, Oklahoma City, Lubbock, Texas, Fort Smith, Arizona, Wichita, Kansas. I don't know how they got this list. Kalamazoo, Michigan. This is a farce. Duluth, Minnesota, Lynchburg, Virginia, uh, Deltona, Florida. Let's hear out their reasoning. Anytime a disease spreads from one continent to another, it follows a similar pattern. An unknowingly infected person boards a plane and spreads the illness to others for the whole flight until they land at a major international airport. And once they get to those packed metros, they spread it some more and on and on. Zombieism is a disease, so if you're fond of brains, you don't want to be in a big city. Well, hell, I could have told you that. I mean, have you seen that picture of me? I see zombies from the old school, man. Back in the day, it's like I literally am picking up on a new class of Portlandia culture. I see zombies. And there was one day, I didn't do it more than that day, but just one day at that moment outside that New Seasons on 44th and Hawthorne that I had to tell the world that Alexandria sees zombies. But I was never the same again. That was 6 years ago. That's why heading up our smaller metros head up our Walking Dead survival list. Topping the list is Lubbock, Texas. And the reason can be found, get this, in the early scenes of the movie Zombieland, when the hero lists his rules. The first, keep up with your cardio. You need to be fit to outrun the undead, especially the fast type. But the second rule is all about the double tap. Always shoot your zombie twice in the head, just to be on the safe side. Cue gun loving Texas. Being located in one of the most Second Amendment friendly states offers plenty of opportunities to get familiar with your firearms prior to the zombie takeover. There's a whole lot of shooting ranges in the area, such as Patriot Firearms and Family Shooting Center. But marksmanship alone won't keep you alive for long. You have to sleep sometime. Lubbock also has an unusually high number of impenetrable, windowless safe rooms and panic rooms, great hideouts where you can avoid legions of soulless animated corpses. Quote here from Jackie Howard of Coldwell Banker. Quote, with a huge tornado in the 1970s, what came out of that was Texas Tech became a leader in creating safe rooms to protect against future disasters. Now, while proximity to military bases could prove fatal with nukes, it is likely a godsend in the face of the living dead. A military outpost would have the soldiers, ammunition, and tanks required to take down those rotting herds. After Lubbock, Delton, Florida came in, followed by San Luis, California. Oklahoma City at number 4 was an exception to the small rule, like Wichita, Kansas, at number 7 in the swath country known as Tornado Alley. These areas have plenty of homes with bunkers and safe rooms to survive the twisters and far creepier things. Rounding out the survival list, Kalamazoo, Michigan, Duluth, Minnesota, Fort Smith, Arizona, Prescott, Arizona, and Lynchburg, Virginia. Again, I have no idea, no experience with any of these places. Okay, let's look at the worst places to find yourself with regards to a zombie apocalypse, which would take a little while to ramp up to full force. It might start with media reports of a breakout of a rage-inducing disease, what I would refer to as an archonic takeover of their consciousness. Yeah, it would be seen as such, but it would really be something else. But yes, it could be something that could be physically traced and tracked as a quote unquote disease, something proven, something actually happening to people's brains. That could convince you to stay inside for a few days. But by the time you came to grasp the situation, it might be too late to leave. Now imagine living in New York, the worst city to be situated when the zombies take over. In fact, surviving the undead in Manhattan could be even tougher than surviving nukes, for that matter. Slow moving turrets. You'd be lucky to make it a block in this jam packed city without being ripped into something that resembles pulled pork. Just ask Rick Grimes, who barely escaped a zombie mob in Atlanta during the first episode of The Walking Dead. Spoiler, his horse gets eaten. I don't watch The Walking Dead. It almost goes without saying, but you can't grow a garden in a 500 square foot apartment. But I just watched a Stephen King book made into a movie as a Graveyard Shift just yesterday. Oh, also Silver Bullet, starring Gary Busey. Also, I think a Stephen King thriller. And unless you purchased about 1,000 cans of Campbell's Chunky Soup prior to the Walker's invasion, you're out of luck. The lesson here is that if you live in a huge city and start seeing people take bites out of each other, it's time to run for the hills. But Alex Answer would say, if you already see signs, right, of heartless behavior, that is already a sign to head for the hills. Heartless behavior, cruel behavior, extreme have and have not behaviors, an economy literally dangling by a thread, all-time high debt, but an all-time high stock market. What could go wrong? Homeless everywhere. And the main issue for a lot of people, right, when they're looking at the city representatives, whether it be Oregon or some, what are you going to do about the homeless? Without realizing why there's so many homeless and that they could be homeless tomorrow. And once someone's homeless long enough, you know what? They start looking like a zombie. And you know what? If they really start losing it, maybe they start acting like a zombie. And if they're demonized to the point of a zombie or of a traveling homeless American refugee, well, we know what to do with zombies, don't we? I got a DVD also over here I picked up for $1 at the library and saw that as a piece of documentation. The History Channel with their zombie apocalypse documentary from 2009. I probably ought to do a video on that. And what do you do with a zombie? And how do you kill a zombie? And thus the programming is set. Predictive programming to believe in an outbreak for all of us to be turned into zombies and then to be hunted and killed like zombies. And then a lot of these cities to be forced to stay in the city. There's a lot of people that saw the writing on the wall, didn't get out when they had the chance to get out, thus demonized as a contaminated zombie that needs to be contaminated in the strike zone or in the outbreak zone. Going back to the article. For those reasons, large cities dominated our list of the worst places to survive a zombie apocalypse. Chicago came in second, followed by Washington, D.C., Las Vegas, Nevada, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Portland, Oregon. Holla! Can I get an amen? I said, can I get an amen? I said, I got Portland and Seattle. We got Portland, we got Seattle, we got the West Coast represented. It's missing San Francisco. Okay, it's clearly missing Southern Oregon. Oh, you know there's going to be some hillbilly zombie outbreak stuff, but Portland definitely. And then for those of you that are taking this seriously, and this is not just comedy, but it's okay to laugh to release some of the tension. This is pretty dark stuff. Check out Top Off War. I have reported on it. I was the only person in the independent media to report on Top Off War when it was taking place, and I wasn't looking at it as some sort of a cover for them to do a false flag in Portland. Rather, I saw Portland as being significant during World War III. They were doing war games in China or in the East China Sea or some of those areas. Russia and China doing war games in the East in 2007, literally within a month of NORAD running war games, including Top Off 4, which was how Homeland Security would come into Portland in response to a dirty bomb attack from Al Qaeda, or today from ISIS, right? But a drill, really, to bring Portland under the thumb of Homeland Security. And they drilled in Portland, and they drilled in Guam, and they drilled in Phoenix. And you know what's interesting about Guam? North Korea threatened Guam not too long ago. And see, the plot gets deeper when you look at how long they've prepared or been preparing for this potential war, for zombie outbreaks, even drills in San Diego where you see like these mock actors being shot by these special ops or black ops or law enforcement personnel. 2012. Going back to the article, still you might want to take some precautions in case you can't get out in time. Equipping a home with the shatter-resistant windows, security devices, and alarm systems could go a long way. Anything you can do to slow down a potential intruder or mindless zombie without much intelligence would be good. Amen. Data sources, Realtor.com, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Census Bureau, Department of Defense, and the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. I'm Alex Answer, and I'll see you in the next video.